Mike Patterson, Believeland Media here, and I'm here with Peggy Whitmore from Euclid, Ohio, boxer. How are you? I mean, you're doing good.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah, excited for this weekend.
Exactly. I mean, a Blood Panther. So I mean, I gotta ask. I mean, that's a cool name. So I
Thank
mean,
you.
you're welcome. I gotta ask. So where did that come from? Where did that start? Where did the Blood Panther start?
I mean, I wish I had like a real cool story like to tell, but honestly, I came up with it myself. Because I know there's like a back and forth on like how people come up with their names. Is it given to you? Did you come up with it? But I did come up with it myself. I've been in like an athlete my whole life, so um the like mascot thing is kind of big for me because I feel like you want it to be something intimidating and the Browns have the little brownie and I'm not a big fan of the brownie.
Yeah, you had to find a
I know
brownie.
everybody loves brownie and I'm a
You
big
ain't a fan
Browns
of
fan.
brownie. You ain't a
I'm
fan
not
of
a fan. He is
brownie.
so like this little skinny little elf like what like we have this cool big old dog but we use this little elf all the time and it just doesn't make sense to me.
Come on.
um
That's fair.
So when I started boxing, and the reason why too, like when I lived in Cincinnati for a year for my freshman year of college, and they were all Cincy fans, and they like talked about the elf. So that's honestly where it started.
Okay, all right.
So when I started boxing, I was like, it's got to be something intimidating. And I
Yeah.
love panthers. Black panthers are like my favorite animal. Because I feel like I identify a lot with them. They're very independent and very strong. Like they can have a whole deer in their mouth and carry that to the top of the tree. So I just really kind of felt like I have a lot of characteristics like panthers. So and then blood, I'm out for blood. So put them together.
Blood Panther. Now
Yeah.
you said you've been an athlete your whole life.
Yes. Yeah.
Or what? Because correct me if I'm wrong. You just started boxing not what about not too long ago. I would say like five,
Yep.
4.
5 years ago.
Okay,
Yep.
5 years ago.
Yeah.
So what other sports would you come up playing?
So my mom got me in sports like right away. I have ADHD and I'm dyslexic. So, and my mom is an early childhood intervention specialist. So she kind of knows, that realm is, she's knows how to work with kids who, have some difficulties or learning differences. So she knew from an early age that it was going to be important for me to be athletic and run off steam. She never wanted to put me on any type of medication. So like my first sport I started off doing was swimming. So I would like swim for like 2 hours at least every day. And then from there, she just kept adding on. And then I started like softball and swimming, I think were like the two sports I started. And then cross country, and then basketball. And basketball was like my first love. um, and then once I got in high school, I had to like lower it down. So then it was just cross country, basketball, and track. Um, and then I did run for a year in college when I went to Mount St. Joseph, but then I ended up transferring to Kent. And I decided I wanted to work, but then I started lifting a lot. Um, and then grad school, and that's when I got into boxing is in grad school.
So I'm glad you kind of touched on it a little bit because I was gonna ask how. Now you said you got into it in grad school because I mean
Hmm.
you said basketball, cross country, track, swimming. All those got endurance, and I know how important endurance is. But
Hmm.
that is, like I said, I mean, how exactly did you start getting into boxing? Because, like I said, like you said, it was kind of a random collection of sports. So
Hmm.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that. How did you get into boxing?
Yeah. So, yeah, no one in my family does any combat sports. Like, never really watched them growing up. Nothing like that. I mean, obviously, I did get a little bit into UFC with Ronda Rousey and all of that era. But like, never really any boxing in my family. I did get like a little bit of a taste. Like, I got a seed got planted in my eighth grade year, high school, eighth grade year of middle school. We had to read The Contender. And like I said, school was not my thing.
Yeah.
Really like did not like reading, but that book I could not put down and I loved it. And I told my mom, I remember telling my mom, I was like, I want to do boxing. I want to try this out. And she was just like, okay, Peggy, whatever you say. And I knew nothing about it and, didn't know what I was, 13 in eighth grade. So it never really went anywhere. But then grad school, I started doing the title, in like 20, what year was that? I think it was like 2017 maybe. But title's just you're hitting a bag, and the instructors don't really know much about it. So then I eventually did get bored with it. And I started writing my thesis and started that whole thesis process, which takes a lot of time and energy. So the gym kind of fell off, but I was getting towards the end of my thesis, and like I was just kind of making like the PowerPoint presentation type part of it. So I had more time on my hands again. And my friend David, he works at Strong Style. So I knew I kind of wanted to get back into boxing specifically, but I wanted something a little bit more challenging than just hitting a bag. Like I wanted people who actually knew about boxing, but still didn't have really an intent of like being a fighter. But then I went to the gym, and my first day there, Brian came up to me, who's my coach, and he was like, you ever think about like fighting? Like you want to be a fighter? Like I like what you're doing over here. And I was like, oh no, like I mean, I'm just here to kind of get back in shape. And I'm in grad school. I still didn't think I like wanted to get into it. And I definitely knew I still didn't have the time for it, because though my grad experience was slowing down, it still was my focus.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and I want to clarify, because I feel like some people think Brian like stayed on me and like hassled me until I said okay, but that wasn't the case. He would come up to me here and there and just be like, oh, like, correct some things or whatever. But he didn't ask me about it again, about joining the team, until I got boxing shoes. So once he saw I was putting more money into it, I think that was like, okay, so maybe she would be, more interested. So then he asked me again. I think it was, so when I first started, it was in January, and then he asked me again in July, and I was like, you know what? Yeah. And I graduated by this time. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me try it out. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? And then it was just like, yep, no turning back from there.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
So Brian, I don't know, mess up his last name. Brian G. How do you say his last name?
Gideon.
Gideon. Okay.
Yeah.
Brian Gideon. So I was gonna ask how long he's been your coach, but you just basically told me. So he's been your coach from from the start. He's from the start.
Yeah, he's taught me everything I know. Everything about my style, and yeah, everything I owe to him. So
how is the how is the camaraderie like in Strong Style? Because I'm understanding there is a lot of up and coming Cleveland, not only boxers but also MMA prospects as well. So
mm-hmm.
how's your experience been over there, like training over there?
We've had our ups and downs. I'm not gonna lie. During the whole 2020 experience,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a big avid, like a lot of police officers and firefighters go there and stuff. So I like kind of told them how I felt about the situation, and like not really not feeling like they were backing their black fighters as well. And if I'm gonna fight for you, I want you to fight for me as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I brought that up, but even though I came off, and I came off really aggressive with that. I like called them out on it, and I was like, I don't like this. I'm leaving, blah, blah, blah. But then Marcus, called us all in. I actually didn't go to the original meeting because he didn't have my contact information. So I like didn't, Marcus is the owner of the gym.
Okay.
So, but he had us all come in and was like, like I do support you guys. Like I just try to, it's a gym and I want everyone to feel welcomed. So I try to stay out of the political aspect, but let me know what I can do to support you guys as well. And then he met with me separately and, told me the same thing. So from then I haven't really had an issue, with them, but that made me also feel more comfortable too, like, being able to tell them how I feel about situations and having them take it seriously and wanting me to feel comfortable to keep staying there. And then Brian also is the same way. There's been moments, I'm not the only girl at the team currently, but there's been moments where I'm the only girl on the team, and that's a whole different element of itself as well. I mean, when I started playing basketball in the 3rd grade, my mom signed me up for Euclid Rec, and I was the only girl on that team all the way from 4th grade to 8th grade. So I've had it. I'm not new to being in a male environment. But like when I've had issues with that too, or just, comments that are being made or something, or if I feel like a coach is coming in and, having the wrong idea, I can come to Ryan and he will address it or change things and stuff. And, he checks in with me as well to make sure I'm feeling comfortable and everyone's being respectful. But yeah, my teammates, yeah, I respect all my teammates and they definitely respect me too. Even if I'm giving them shit and they give me shit, it's a good, like we have a good team bond. When it comes to like boxing and MMA, It is a little bit more separate because, well, we literally have a wall in between the two sides.
Wow.
But, they're two different sports, but we definitely, the boxing team definitely helps out, the MMA team when they need sparring and they want to work on their, standing game and stuff and, supporting each other on social media, advertising our fights and stuff and, coming to each other's fights and trying to support each other. But for the most part, our workouts are pretty separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with him being Coach Brian being with you from the amateurs up until your pro debut, up until
Mhm.
this point, I mean, what lessons have you taken from him and your amateur experience that you have taken so far in your two fights and that you look to continue to carry on in your pro career?
Um, I think the biggest thing I would say is just he's so calm and like confident. And like he just like believes and like there's no doubt in that and like nothing wavers away. Like when he has an idea and I can be like that too with like our stubbornness. But when he has an idea in his head, that's how it is. And nobody can tell him any different. And I had to kind of learn that with my own confidence. Like he definitely like, so with my amateur experience, when I went to my tournaments, except for the one that was in Cleveland, he unfortunately couldn't make it to those. One time his mom wasn't doing well. And she eventually did pass away, but he couldn't go to that tournament because of what was going on with her. And then the next time, Dewan, Calloway, he had hit he was on the Crawford card. So the same week. So he couldn't make it to that either because he had to be with Dewan. So sometimes I got in my own head mentally, because I didn't have him there. And after that, like last tournament, that I did in, Texas, I forgot the name of the city it was in, Loveport or whatever. But I didn't have him and I was like, I need him in my corner. But that's just because of how much I trust him. And I know, like Brian knows boxing. He knows the game. He knows strategies. He knows exactly what to tell me what to do, to get the win. Like for when the tournament was in Cleveland, when I was in the semifinals, I forgot the girl's name. I think her name's Heather or something, but she's real tall and she had like a longer reach than me. And that was the first time I was really fighting someone who had that much of a reach on me. And I definitely lost like the first round and he just, he's like, you need to trust your jab, use your jab and you will win this fight, but you're abandoning your jab. You got to get in there and stick to your jab. And I did that. I did exactly what he said and I ended up winning and going on to the finals. So just like, I can definitely, if I feel like I don't know what to do, I know I just have to turn my ears on and listen to him and I will do what he tells me and I'll get the win. So I'm just very lucky to have a coach that just really knows the game of boxing. Or not
I mean,
game, but
having that trust so early, I mean, I feel like that's just big, building that trust so early with that one-on-one trust with a coach, like you said, having them from your amateurs. I mean, even before then, seeing you not even know you want to box and just
right.
side getting you into it. Just, I feel like that's big and that's special. And I mean, props to him and props to you for being a good listener because it's clearly coming out.
Not always. I've also learned that I need to be a better listener because it can be hard when you're in there and like your emotions and stuff, like you forget to like, you got to listen too because, they're seeing things different and not seeing what you're seeing. So yeah, it's a skill you have to learn.
Now, you touched on your tournaments, but you won multiple, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 state titles, right?
Yeah. They've all been Ohio. My first one was actually Doug Patterson's title, the Queen of the Ring. So that was my first one against Lauren, who I just fought in May. So that was like kind of like a rematch a little bit. But that was my first title fight. And I came off a big win. This was actually so just a little bit background, talking about the confidence, how I kind of gained my confidence. I had fought this one girl and lost to her 3 times. Boxing is, some people can see it one way, some people are going to see it the other way, So I didn't agree with 2 of the losses, but, I didn't do what the judges thought I needed to do that day, so she got those wins. But coming off those 3 losses, Brian never doubted me or, put me down or yelled, because he knew each time I put my heart in that ring. So he just built me up and told me what I needed to work on. And then off that fight, I had my two best fights. So it was against Brooke, and then for the title against Queen of the Ring, Lauren. So that was my first time. And once I had that, once I tasted that, I was like, okay, that's when I definitely got hooked to boxing. Just like that big win of like getting that belt and like feeling like you, like that validation, I started to really want that validation over and over and really wanting to just like build my name as a boxer in Ohio. And Doug had me on his show too. And that was like also just like feeling like I'm setting a name for myself in Cleveland because he's a pretty respected Cleveland, in Cleveland boxing. Doug Pedersen's name, is really respected. So to see him respect me, kind of, that was when I was like, got my roots in, was like, this is what I want to do. And then from there was Brian's card, Queen of the Ring, or not Queen of the Ring, just War on the Shore. And then, ringside out in Columbus. And then the last one was in Youngstown. That was my last actually amateur fight, was my last title fight. And I forgot the girl's name, but she's a national champ. She fights at 131 and for amateurs, or 130 amateurs. But yeah, that was a big win too, because I was like, again, fighting someone who has a known name nationally in boxing, and I was able to get that win. So I knew going into my pro experience, it was going to be good for me. So coming in with
So,
confidence.
so would you think that because you won four titles in 4 years.
Yeah.
So you would think that span was kind of like important for you, like establish yourself as a boxer, like you say, your confidence and just
hmm
things like that. You would say that kind of was an important kickstart to your career.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's definitely, I learned so much from my amateurs, and not even just like with the technique of boxing. Yes, that, but also just the mental game. It is like 100% mental, and the confidence and just trusting yourself in your corner. And coming in with that confidence, like I said, without Brian there, I definitely wasn't doing that. Those fights, I came in scared pretty much. I wouldn't say like I wasn't scared to get knocked out, but I wasn't coming in confident. Like I was like looking at their Instagram all the time and being like, oh my God, this, that, they got this, and not thinking about myself. I wasn't thinking about, well, what do you bring to the table? What are they looking at and being like, oh, I don't want, I got to worry about this and that. So I definitely learned to like, yeah, you want to look at your opponents and definitely do some research, but at the end of the day, you got to think about what you want to do and what you are going to do versus what they're doing. So,
Sure, yeah.
yeah.
As we're on the topic of lessons, look, I love the sport of boxing, but one thing that just upsets me so much is how when a really good or great fighter loses their zero, it's like I don't know. I feel like I just feel like the
hmm
whole boxing will kind of turn on great fighters just because
hmm
they're not undefeated or they
Yeah.
don't have a zero anymore or they could have just lost to the better man that night, better
Right.
or woman.
Yeah.
So for you to learn, I don't want to say learn how to lose, but learn how to come back from losses so early. I mean, like in
Right.
your amateur career, like you talk about losing to one girl 3 times. Just
Yeah.
how important was that, or how helpful was that? Just being able to learn how to come back from losses.
Oh yeah, it was definitely definitely beneficial. And like you said, a lot of people that O means a lot. Um, but for me, and you have to learn this, like I said earlier, like boxing, one person's gonna say one thing about a fight and someone else is gonna say something completely different about the same fight. But so you have to learn about, again, it's like, what do you want to do? How do you want to fight your fight? And did you do that? Then you should be happy regardless of what the refs are saying or the judges are saying. You froze. So I don't, okay, there you are. You froze for a second. I wasn't sure if I lost you again or not. But, yeah, so it's definitely important for you to establish your goals prior to getting into that fight. So you can, if you do get that L, you can still be okay with yourself and be able to be like, okay, this is what I got to do to be able to pick yourself back up and get back in that ring. I do think it's different for women. Like, I think there's a lot more great women out here that are known boxers that have losses on their records. Like Alicia Baumgartner, she has one loss, but that was earlier in her career. But even Michaela Mayer, who got one of her losses from Alicia Baumgartner, she's still, and just got another loss. And both of those losses, I think, are pretty debatable, but she's still in there confident and still wanting to fight and still wanting all of her belts. So I think for women, I think we're respect our losses a little bit more, and we're not so. I mean, again, I don't want to stereotype all boys, but I think men can be a little bit more oh my God, I can't speak. Their egos mean a little bit more too much to them with those losses versus women are like, whatever. If I went in there and did my best and I know I made a good fight, then I'm not going to shame myself for that and say, like, forget me. I'm still an amazing athlete. Tell me one amazing athlete that's never lost. You can't name them, right? Except, some boxers, but in every other sport, every athlete has a lot, more than one loss on their record. So
Yeah, yeah, sure. And I would agree with you. I do think males can be more egotistical about
mhm.
the and everything. I would agree with that for sure.
Look at
You
you
touched on
showing me out by being able to say the word. John Carroll education is coming in handy there.
Yep, I did. Um, Switching gears. Well, not switching gears. I want to kind of bounce on something you said or touched on. You said the importance of establishing goals before fights.
Mhm.
So we talked about your past a lot. Let's talk about your upcoming fight. So
Mhm.
when you look at your upcoming fight Saturday, it's coming. It's
Yeah,
coming.
it's right here.
Right here. What are goals that you like? What are some established goals that you look to complete after Saturday night?
Well, the hardest part about a fight is everything before your fight. Once you get in the ring, like the hard parts are over with. As soon as that bell rings, the hard parts are pretty much over with. Then you should be having fun and showing all your hard work off pretty much. But my goal really is trying to keep steady this week. I want to be in control of myself and my nerves. Like, of course the nerves are going to come. I'm on pay-per-view on Tank Davis's card, like, for my third pro fight. Like, of course, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I have no nerves. That's just not realistic. But I definitely want to try to keep myself as normal and steady as possible. Just living my days out normally, as I would, to kind of, again, control those nerves. And then getting in there and keeping it as my fight, not changing who I am based off of, everyone keeps talking about her overhand right. I'm like, I get it. She's going to be looking for that overhand right when I'm coming in for those jabs, but that's not going to stop me from jabbing. I have a great jab. Dewan actually really helped me build that, and Brian, obviously. But Dewan's like knocks people out with his jabs. So so he definitely helped me with, I asked him for help me with that early on. And I was able to establish a really good jab, and that's probably my strongest punch. And I use it well, and I'm going to keep using it, whether she's going to come with that overhand or her hook. I'm going to be ready for it, but I'm going to push her back. So my goal is to, keep that pressure on her and use my angles and my footwork, and get her to go backwards with my jab. So I want to do that. So that's my biggest goal, is just to fight my fight and not try to change because I'm nervous or whatever. I know she's not going to knock me out. So I'm going to, stick to my plan.
Okay. And we touched on like the big atmosphere of the car. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, obviously it's Tank Davis's car.
Right.
Benavidez is fighting as well. Those like two of the biggest,
Right.
really big high. You got one, arguably the biggest name in boxing, and another guy who's really starting to establish a really big name in Benavidez.
Right.
When you look at this fight and you fighting on this card with such big names, do you think about the importance of kind of establishing yourself in the professional boxing game? Because this could be, I mean, like you said, there's going to be eyes on this card. Just
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be eyes on this card. So have you kind of thought about that or took that in, like
Oh,
establish?
absolutely. Yes. But I'm using that again as motivation. Like I'm really lucky to be having this opportunity on my third pro fight. Like I wanted this. Like I've been dreaming about this. But never did I think it was going to come this quickly. But that fueled me. Like, I'll be honest, when I first heard about it, like when Brian first told me about it, I work at a school, so I was at sixth grade camp. So I was like, so we were like tie-dyeing, I think. And it was like weeks off of my last fight. So I was not in the mindset of like getting right back into a camp. Uh,
Yeah.
while at a camp, but a different type of camp. But yeah, so like my first thought was like, oh hell no, I'm not ready for this. Like I'm not even in the gym this week. Like I'm gonna be having to do my workouts here and not have my coach. But quickly after, it was like, wait, what am I talking about? This is what I've been dreaming about. How many people it would die to be in my, especially women. Like we really aren't, we have way less opportunities to be on cards like this. I would be insane not to take this card, but I'm using that as fuel and like reframing it instead of letting it make me anxious. I'm letting it make me grateful and just appreciating this opportunity. And because I have this privilege, I'm going to take full advantage of it. And again, just fueling that goal of being the fighter that I know I can be out there come Saturday. So,
I mean, talking about gratefulness and just graciousness and being grateful. I
mm-hmm.
mean, two Eucliders talking. I mean, I'm Euclid, you're
Okay,
Euclid,
go
yeah.
Panthers.
Just for sure, go Panthers. And just can you just talk to me about, I guess, the meaning of being able to represent not only Cleveland but more specifically Euclid on
hmm
such a grand big stage? Like
Yeah,
how much does that mean to you?
yeah. Um, a
Like
lot, honestly.
what
Just
is the meaning behind it to you? Like what is that?
say that again.
Oh no, I was just saying the meaning of that
Oh,
being able to
okay.
represent Euclid on such a big stage. Yeah.
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, just going back to like talking about how I started off as an athlete. My first like amazing coach was Coach Buck from Euclid Rec basketball. And we were like undefeated. Like we
Yeah.
had like the winning mentality. We went multiple seasons of Euclid Rec winning the championship every year. And, again, that's how like, just like talk about like manifestation and like, you know, things that don't make sense in the moment but make sense later. Like that was setting the foundation for this in my head. Like knowing how to be around boys, be in a boys like environment, male run environment, and like knowing how to handle that. I learned that early on because I was on the bus and at first they didn't like me either. They're like, who is this little girl trying to play basketball with all these boys? But I had to earn their respect. I didn't get it handed to me, and I'm thankful for that. They made me work for it. But once they saw how much of a hard worker I was, and I would like get on that ground and roll around with whoever to get that ball or whatever, I was able to earn their respect. So yeah, it means a lot. Not only am I representing Brian, but I'm representing every coach I've ever interacted with. I'm representing my family. I'm representing Euclid. I didn't go to Euclid High School, so I don't want to, but I still love Euclid. I'm in Euclid right now. And that has a lot to do with who I am today. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm very grateful to have had Coach Buck. I'm very grateful I went to Beaumont, and again, winner mentality when it comes to cross country and track. Beaumont is known for running. And Emery was an amazing coach. He did pass away, I think about, if it was last year or 2 years, but just being around people who are amazing athletes at Beaumont with the running. Ariane Payne and Emily Enfeld are well-known athletes, and I was around them when I was a teenager. So again, yeah, there's a lot of pride going into this fight. And again, I'm very grateful to everything that's led up to this point in my life, because talk about, again, being favored and like having things happen. Like me even just walking into strong style, like that was a blessing, because I didn't have this planned out in my head. I didn't know this is where it was going to bring me, but now I get to show my athletic ability in front of millions of people. So yeah, very grateful.
Yeah, really. I mean, you're only about to be 3 fights into your career. When you look at your boxing career, ideally, what do you want to get out of boxing? Like, what is I guess, the most ideal or perfect situation for Peggy? Like, what is it? I mean, what is money, most popularity, belts? Like, what is it? Probably a little bit of everything, but what is
For
your
sure.
most ideal successful boxing career for you? Like,
Yeah. I mean, I definitely want to be undisputed. I think I have every ability to do that, and that's definitely the end game. But not even just be undisputed just to be undisputed. I want to have that name. Like, I want my name to be known and continue to be known after I'm done boxing. I want people to talk about like setting that mind or having that mindset. Like I want the Blood Panther mindset or whatever, like being a hard worker. Like I pride myself on being a hard worker. Like I said, school was never easy for me, but I'm here sitting here with my master's degree. So, but I also think that gives me some privilege too, because I think most people, not most people, well, yeah, I think a lot of people get into boxing because they see it as their only way out. And I'm privileged to not have that kind of pressure on me. Like I have a whole career, outside of boxing. So I get to go in the ring and box because I love to box. You know, it's not just to get the paycheck. It's not to just be famous. Again, I pride myself on being a hard worker and being a disciplined and great athlete. So yeah, I think I'm really lucky to be able to do boxing for boxing.
You are truly. I mean, like you said, that is something I guess I guess I didn't think about. Like you said, a lot of people do get into sports because they have to, like
Hmm.
especially the combat sports, because I mean, it's people fighting for their
Yeah.
family. And like you said,
Right.
you really don't have to do that. And I think that will work to your benefit beautifully. I think it can. So, I
Hmm.
mean, now I'm just curious, I don't think I asked, or if you told me, I'm sorry, but what did you major in? What did you have your degree in?
So my master's degree is in mental health counseling and art therapy. I always laugh because people are like, "What? This is so
Yeah.
random. You get punched in the face? You punch
Yeah.
people in your face?" Like,
Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah. So I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I work at Shaker. Well, now it's becoming the middle school, but I work in sixth grade with Shaker Heights. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Wow, that's actually, man, go good for you, man.
Thank
That's
you. Yeah, and they're real supportive about it too. Like I was like, they all, like a bunch of my coworkers came to my debut and were, up there yelling and everything. And yeah, so I'm again really lucky. And they like sometimes I do come in with a little bit of a black eye and they're like okay with it. They're like, oh, like, well, they call me Margaret. So at work I go by Margaret, but
okay.
yeah, they like expect it and they're okay with it and just really supportive. So
That's beautiful. I mean,
yeah,
that's just perfect.
yeah.
I mean, Peggy, I mean, before we get out of here, what can the boxing world expect out of Peggy Whitmore? I mean, what can the boxing world expect out of you?
I mean, just a lot of energy for sure and like good fights. Like another thing about me, like oddly, which I wouldn't want it any other way, I feel like I bring the best out of other people too. Like for some reason, people like I'll be watching people fight other people and I'm like, why can't they fight me like that? Like
Yeah.
I feel like it would have ended in the second round if they would have fought like that when they were fighting me.
Uh-huh.
But for some reason I like it though. I want to beat I do want to beat you at your best. I don't want you to be coming in and be like, oh, I was sick or whatever blah blah blah. But yeah, just an entertaining fights. Like I'm gonna be throwing a lot of punches the whole time. I don't know if you know who Serena Estrada is, but she's somebody I think I can relate to, and just she throws so many punches. I mean, and Amanda Serrano, but Estrada I feel like has a little bit more defense with her angles and stuff. So I try to like mimic her in a lot when it comes to just being active consistently throughout those whole 2 minutes. Doesn't matter how many rounds or 3 minutes. My last fight was 3 minute rounds, 6 3 minute rounds, and it was supposed to be 2 minutes. So yeah,
Uh,
the Ohio Commission messed that up, but whatever. We went in there and we did it. So nobody. I'm so sick of the 2 minute rounds too, and women can't fight 3 minutes, blah blah blah, because we definitely can. But yeah, so just entertainment and a lot of energy, and getting the crowd into it as well with, good punches landed. So
you heard it here from Peggy first. Entertainment, activity, and punches landed, and that beautiful jab for sure.
yes.
Um, Peggy, I mean, it was more than a pleasure talking to you. I mean, like I said, I can't be more thankful for this. I mean,
Yeah.
I got to know it. Great. I mean, this was great, and good luck on Saturday. You sound more than prepared. You sound more
Thank
than
you.
motivated. You sound ready. You sound ready to kill. Sound ready to go get some blood. Blood
For
Panther.
sure. Yeah.
Good luck. I can't wait to watch. Like you said, hopefully a lot of people tune in and get to know you because it sounds like you really deserve it. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
this was great. So
Thank you.
I'm about to end the recording.